Hello guys and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to discuss how alcohol nearly destroyed my life, the triggers that got me started drinking in the first place, and also the big shock that stopped me drinking, all in today's video. Stay tuned guys, let's get into it. Hello guys, I'm Phil from Parked on the Edge. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Let's get straight into the title of the video. I'm going to start by saying the very first time, my first experience with alcohol, and that was about 2 weeks off my 18th birthday. Me and a friend went to a local snooker hall. I'd never even asked for a beer or anything, you know, anywhere I've been. We used to go there playing snooker quite a lot. They served beer, and yeah, it's the first time I'd ever asked for beer. Me and my friend just said, look, should we try and get a beer? You know, we were both 17 years of age. So I looked a little bit older than him, so I went to the bar. 2 Castlemaine 4Xs, please, love. And there they go. They were there on the bar. Took them back, and away we go. I think we ended up having about 3-4 pints there. And my dad's nightclub was literally a 2-minute walk. My dad owned a nightclub at that time. And he'd never let me in. He always used to say, 18, 18, 18. You're not coming in until you're 18. So I thought, you know what, I'll chance my arm. I'm 2 weeks away. So we was either getting a taxi home, which the taxi rank was pretty near to the nightclub, or we were going in the club. So I went into the club. I asked one of the doormen to go and get my dad and said, come on dad, I'm only 2 weeks off. Right, okay, go up there, behave yourself. You can have 3 beers, and then I want you in a taxi and I want you home. I was like, right, okay dad, no problem. So, you know, I'm 4 or 5 pints in at this point. I'd always been a kid growing up who had no confidence. I couldn't go chat women up or anything like that. I just didn't have the confidence for it. By God, as soon as I'd had them 4 or 5 beers, I felt like I could just go over to anyone and ask them out and not be bothered if they said no. So, it goes without saying, that night, you know, I ends up going home with a lady, and, you know, the rest is history, use your imagination. So, I would say my first experience with alcohol as a 17-year-old felt quite good. You know, I'd never been laid, I'd never been drunk, and in one night, you know, I sorted both of them things out. You know, got up next morning, sort of like, you know, you think you're it, you know. So that was it. That started it off. So pretty much every weekend then, Friday, Saturday, drinking. I didn't smoke. I didn't do any sort of drugs at this time. I was so anti-drugs, so anti-smoking. My mum used to smoke, used to have a go at her. My nan used to smoke, used to have a go at her. They both stopped smoking. I gets to 19, you know, I'm knocking around with girls. I'm going into town regular. Then I'm smoking, I'm drinking. Then I start taking speed. So through that alcohol, through that first decision to drink alcohol, it just snowballed. I mean, if I knew what I'd known now, I would never have took that first drink, you know, and I would have loved to have just said, you know, I've never drank type thing. But yeah, I did. I was all in then. I was going into town, you know, getting your whiz, getting your beer money, and, you know, and away you went. And that just carried on into my like mid-20s. Ended up working in the nightclub for my dad. So, you know, I'd be having a few beers there. I weren't getting drunk when I was working, but, you know, once the night was over at 2 o'clock or whatever, boom, I'd be getting on it. I might have spoke to someone during that night, and I'm back there, I'm drinking, I'm not getting home till 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, it was, yeah, it was pretty bad. Drugs wasn't such an issue, I don't think, as much then. Sort of from like 21 to 25, I remember stopping the whiz and didn't really do anything. And then got to around 25, and, you know, you're earning a bit more money. Then when I'm going out, you know, someone says, you want to try a bit of this? Next minute, you're doing that. Then 5 years of that, up to like 30, I just couldn't. Every time I went out, I needed to put the marching dust up my nose as well, or else it just didn't feel like it was worth it. I could never put that up my nose when I hadn't had a drink. So again, drink triggers all these things off, where if I just didn't drink, you know, all these other issues that I ended up with, I wouldn't have had. Tell me if you guys have started off in a similar way. Tell me in the comments. It was, you know, what was your journey? What was your first experience of alcohol? Tell me in the comments. I was always like a happy drunk back then, but then when I started to drink more, you know, it was then a Friday, a Saturday, or Tuesday, a Thursday. Start to feel myself going downhill massively, I am with a partner at this point. It didn't stop me doing anything, if I'm honest with you. You know, I'm going to miss quite a lot out of certain things that happen, because that's going to be a video on its own. But at 30 years of age, I got sent to prison for 12 months. In another video, I'll go into what I did and all that. Nothing, you know, nothing too bad and stuff like that. But I got sent to jail. Now, when I went to jail, I would say that I was pretty much an alcoholic. So I look at jail in a way is that it actually saved me, because I was in a really, really bad place when I went to jail. I was about just over 10 stone. I looked thin. I was, you know, I looked awful. I didn't look well. When I went into jail, I ended up serving 3 months. They let me out early on a tag, you know, good behaviour, and you know, I was Cat D all along, so you know, I weren't seen as a high risk prisoner, let's say. And yeah, I did 3 months. That was over Christmas. That weren't nice, but again, I'm going to discuss that on another video. I got out on January the 13th. While I was in jail, coming to the end, I got a phone call. I rang my partner, you know, the girl I was with, Jake's mum, rang her from the jail, and she told me that she was pregnant. We're having a boy, and you know, that was a great day. You know, me and his mum. You know, probably mainly down to me, you know, I probably wasn't a very good boyfriend and stuff like that. So when I got out, I had every intention of going, right, I'm gonna settle this right down now. I'm gonna behave myself. I'm gonna look after my partner and my son, and you know, and that's it. I was out of jail less than probably an hour, and I'd had full English breakfast, and then 2-3 hours later, I was in the pub and I was getting blitzed, you know. So I was just quickly fell back into the routine that I had when I was on the outside. And again, that sort of passed a little bit. I remember one night, me and my partner going out to a friend's wedding, and I had net all day. I got so drunk that I just didn't know where I was. You know, I was probably saying hurtful things to her, and you know, she's cleared off, left me to it. You know, I'm like looking around at middle of nowhere thinking, where's she gone? I don't blame her for going. I'd have left me as well, you know. I'd have got off. I was behaving like a pillock. And I remember getting home, you know, she wouldn't open the door, wouldn't let me in and stuff, you know. And I think I know I did. I went round the back, and stupidly I tried to put the back window through so I could get in. You know, next minute, police are there, you know, I'm in the back of a car. At this point, I think my 12-month sentence hadn't finished. So if that officer would have actually took me in and booked me in, I would have gone back to jail and finished the sentence. Luckily, he got sort of halfway to Runcorn Nick, and you know, I sort of just like come round a little bit, and he just said, look, if I take you in here, you know, it's not going to be good for you. You're going to be going back. And obviously I was devastated, and he just turned around to me and said, look, I'm off shift in 20 minutes. I can open this door now and just let you on your way. Don't go back to that house. You know, don't let me down on it, and I'll just let you go. I was like, brilliant, thank you, you know. He let me go, and good job he didn't search me, because I had cannabis in my pocket. How he didn't smell it in the car, I'll never know. So he dropped me off, and I remember walking back, and I got onto the back fields near to where my mum lives. And I basically, see, like here now, I got all trees and stuff. I basically went, got under a tree, smoked myself a reef, and I went to sleep. And I woke up about 3:15 in the morning. It was pitch black. It started raining. I was freezing. It was summer, so it could have been a lot worse. And I remember I had about a 4-mile walk to get back home, thinking, you know, she's not going to let me in the house. So when I got home, luckily my back door on my van was open. So 3:30 in the morning, I climb in there and I go to sleep. And you know, next morning around 8, half 8, you know, I sort of skulked to the door, and you know, my partner was like, get in, you dickhead, you know. And she wasn't happy. She didn't really speak to me, but I think she felt a bit sorry for me that I was sat in the van. So in I came, and from that day on, I think that was one of them moments I felt that embarrassed, that shamed through what I'd done, that it took me out of it for a bit, you know. And I remember that I didn't really drink that much after that. My son was born, and then I started to stay in with my son. Obviously my partner couldn't have gone out for, you know, 9 months. She was heavily pregnant and stuff. So when he was better and, you know, she wanted to go out of a night with her friends and stuff, I found myself just staying in with my lad. Really enjoyed it, you know. She used to go out on a weekend and I wouldn't go out. I'd stay in and I'd look after the boy. During that time I wasn't really drinking a lot. Then I remember being at work one day and my partner ringing me and telling me she had an aggressive form of cancer, and it, you know, they weren't sure if they could do anything for her. It was that bad. And again, I'm gonna keep the ins and outs of this for another video, because I've not spoke to her about how in detail I can go into this. So I'm just brief outline for now. But I remember getting that news. Even now when I say it, it was like, what? It's a heartbreaker, you know. It was heartbreaking. I can still feel that emotion now of when she told me that, you know. Anyway, period of time after that, we separated. She asked me to leave, and you know, with what she had going through, you know, I had no animosity towards her or anything. It was what something like that does to you, I'll never know. So I found myself somewhere to live. One of my friends had a house in Burton Wood. The room was tiny. You could barely put your arms. You could put your arms to one side and reach both walls. So at that point, you know, I'm looking after my boys around, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 months. He's in a little travel cot next to me, and I felt my mental health, right, it was really declining massively. I felt like I was a failure as a father. You know, I didn't have his own room. I felt really bad. Got myself into a horrible mindset. Depression hit me really hard. And again, I'm not gonna go into that because that went on for a good 2 years, and I want to do another video on that. So I'm just going to jump forward to when my partner was better. That was like 6, 7 years she went through it. So my boy was living with me all that time. So when it was time for, you know, my boy to go and start seeing his mum again, you know, obviously he's not with me then every day, and that was pulling me down again. You know, I started to feel myself go down again. The nights I'd be sat there and my boy wasn't upstairs, you know, I could just feel myself getting lower and lower and lower. And that's when I started heavily drinking again. You know, I'd go to the pub, I'd have 5, 6, 7 beers, get in my car and come home. It, you know, disgusting. And I know I'm horrified at myself when I say these things now. I just it just went to a place where I just didn't know what was going on. And that culminated in New Year's Eve. I got on the beer from like 3 o'clock, drank a lot of beer. I got in bed at 20 to 1 in the morning, and then got in my van next morning. I was going somewhere. It was about 7 o'clock, and I got pulled over, and I blew over. I blew 58 at the roadside, you know, after having a sleep and stuff. It just hadn't come out my system. So yeah, I got took in. 18 days later I went to court and I had my license took off me for 9 months. Again, absolutely horrendous. I couldn't take my boy to school. I lived too far away, so that put extra pressure on his mum to take him to school, and you know, stuff like that. Working, luckily the lad that worked for me had a license, so he'd take me around. But you can see how alcohol, all through my 20s, my 30s, it was killing me. It really was. If I wouldn't have drunk beer, and I think where I would have been now, beer sort of, everything came from that first beer. Everything triggered off there. I've missed a lot of stuff out. There's lots and lots of more incidents where I've gone out and done stupid things and through drink, you know, and got myself into trouble and things like that. Yeah. So it was about 3-4 weeks after I lost my license. I was in, again, my head had just gone. I was in a terrible headspace, and started having a few beers one evening, and I remember Jake's mum ringing, saying, "Can Jake come and stay?" And you know, I'd only had a couple at that point. I thought, yeah, of course he can. But I was one of them that once I started, I literally couldn't stop until, you know, I was paralysed, in bed, like, you know, zonked, bladdered. So he goes upstairs to bed, and you know, it gets to about 10:30, 11, I think, right, I'll finish my whiskey off, you know. So I ends up doing the bottling, and you know, I was paralytic basically. remember trying to climb in bed around 2 o'clock, and I've fell up the stair, you know, every stair I've fell on. My son's in the room next to me, you know, I'm thinking he's fast asleep. He's probably about 7 or 8 then, and I gets into the bedroom. I remember falling into the blinds and trying to hold the blinds to keep me up, pulling them off the wall, landing on the floor, banging my head on the floor, cut my head. And then I remember getting up again. Then I fell into the radiator, pulled the radiator off the wall. The radiators lay flat on the floor. Wardrobe doors. I basically, I don't know what the hell I was doing. I must have been creating some noise. And you know, I goes to bed. I wakes up next morning, sees all the damage. What the fuck have I done? You know. Goes in to see my boy. He's fast. You know, he's ready for waking up. I'm like, well, thank God, at least he's not heard it. You know, and I've not had to be compos mentis in the night. It's disgraceful. I know it is. Even when I'm telling the story now, it makes me feel like, oh, awful. Anyway, the day goes on. Jake stays with me that night. I'm ready to put him in bed about 8 o'clock, and then I goes upstairs, sits on the bed with him, put him on, you know, tucked him in, and he said to me, "Daddy, you feeling better?" I was like, "Yeah, son, I'm okay. Why? What's up?" "Well, I know you wasn't feeling very well last night. You know, and a lot of damage in your bedroom, Dad. Is that because you wasn't feeling well? You know?" And then he said to me, "You're not going to be unwell tonight, Dad, are you?" And he had like a fear on his face. "You all right?" He had a fear on his face, and that look, I can see it now. I can see it, and it was a look of, I know you were not well, Dad. You were bladdered, you know, and I know he knew it, and that just, my heart just sank into my chest. I had beers in the fridge that I was ready to have that night, and I remember going and just tipping them down the sink. I don't think I drank beer for 12 months after that. The next time was a shandy, and then it was probably 6-7 months after that I had another shandy, and that's how it's pretty much been now. So I don't drink. I think this year I've probably had, I think I've had 4 tinnies all year, and they were when we would go to karting events and we're staying overnight, and you know, some of the parents are out having a drink, they'll offer me a drink, I say, "Look, I'll have one," you know, and I will literally have one, and that's it. I go to bed, because I know that nothing good can come of me drinking, and even when I've had that one, sometimes I think to myself, why did I bother? You know, don't even have the one. It's been a while since, probably again, it's been another 4, 5, 6 months since I've even had one tinny or one shandy or anything. So you can clearly see how alcohol nearly destroyed me, and I've missed quite a lot out because I want to do some other videos. There's probably 4 years in there that I want to talk about, which were me, you know, depression, you know, just not wanting to be here anymore. You know, I haven't attempted suicide or anything like that, but I was certainly getting to a very, very, very dark place. You know, now, like I said, I don't have an issue with drink. My relationship with drink now is virtually non-existent. So I'm happy about that. I want to keep that going. But yeah, that's my story with alcohol. I want to get all the things out of the way, my life experiences and stuff, and then when I do get onto my daily diaries, you know, you've already known what my life's been like to get to here. So when you see me maybe struggling with certain things, you'll know my history, and you know, maybe you can give me better advice knowing some of the history. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for watching. I'm not going to talk any more on it. You know, all has worked out well on that front. Since New Year, I've been doing the walking every day. My discipline is getting better. I said to myself this morning, get up at 5:30, and if you've nothing to do, just get up. So I did. I got up at 5:30. I feel absolutely shattered. I'm knackered today, really tired. I normally get up at 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock, you know, and yeah, I just wanted to say to myself, get up at 5:30, you know, just show that discipline and test myself. So that's what I did. So guys, please put your experiences in the comments. What's your relationship with alcohol? Are you still in that relationship with alcohol? Tell me about it. Just talk, put it in the comments, tell us where you're at. I just want to say thank you to everybody that subscribed. Thank you to the guys who have bought me a coffee. Andy Summo, top guy. I'll get a coffee with that tomorrow. Thank you, mate. And yeah, stay tuned, guys. Go and watch my other videos down on my channel. I don't know how to link them on the screen, so go onto the channel, subscribe, like, comment, all that lot, and I shall catch you on the next one. God bless you guys.